get situated and get started. We've got about 8 talks packed into 45 minutes, so we need to get underway quickly. I know other people will be trickling in as we get started here, but Lightning Talks is the session that you're in right now, and it's pretty much for... Yeah? Okay. Sorry, I didn't hear that. 45 minutes of pure adrenaline, so get ready to live. We've got 2 podiums set up here. One is for people setting up for the next talk while the other person's presenting. The second person on the list can go ahead and come down and start getting ready. William Karavites, are you in the house? William in the house. No William. Moving on, we've got Adam Marshall. I'm going to go ahead and come down and get set up. We'll try and go in the order that we've got it on the lanyard site. So if you're your name's coming up, or you know you have a presentation, kind of work your way forward. With that, I will hand you over to Mr. Andrew Petro and start the timer at 5 minutes. When he is done, we'll either run him off or he'll run off himself. Mark,
wonderful.
The
talk is Got Product Owner. I'm going to spend up to 5 minutes telling you what I've learned lately about the product owner role in Scrum. So last year, I had the opportunity to give a talk at this conference. The title was Getting There is Half the Fun. One of the things treated in that talk was, about my UW processes and practices, was our use of Scrum. And we use Scrum. In Scrum, you got a few roles. There's this product owner role. The product owner is the one and only person responsible for managing the product backlog and ensuring the value of the work the team performs, which sounds like a lot of responsibility. In the talk last year, I talked about how we had 2 people in the product owner role, kind of co-product owners, with a Scrum team of 3-ish. We were looking to expand at that time, doing these 2-week Scrum iterations. So, what have I learned lately? Well, it works better as one person. So instead of if you have 2 people, then you can't casually... Scrum is all about these casual face-to-face human interactions. And if your product owner role is fulfilled by multiple people, that sounds like it might be a good idea in that someone's available when the other one's not. But really what happens then is every time you want to engage with the product owner function, it's a meeting and it's got to be scheduled, or you only get one of the 2. It works better as one person. And that person is full-time. This is a full-time role. There's a lot of work to do in the product owner role. The work of wrangling what is the most valuable work that this team can be doing, this Scrum team can be doing, that's work. What kind of work are we talking about? Well, keeping your product backlog groomed, the work well-defined and prioritized. The stories, the user stories on the backlog being good, well-defined stories. Stories look like this. As some person, some role, I would like to do this thing so that some business need is fulfilled. And it's the so that, it's the why, it's the what is the need behind this request. That's what you're digging into as product owner, and making sure that worthwhile business problems are teed up so that the Scrum team can take them on and deliver them. The product owner role fills in a lot of communication with and out of your Scrum team. And we've found some value in more release notes, more summaries of the sprint plans and of the sprint results to make the work of the Scrum team more understandable from outside the team. So you kind of rejigger how you staff this role to one person full-time, really taking this on. Your product backlog is well-groomed. We got our groomedness. You got good stories. We got our storyness. And you really plow through that backlog to get it all well-defined and teed up, and you realize that you are doing it wrong. Because the most important thing I've learned about the product owner role, while it is important to spiffy up that backlog, is that the product owner role really needs to be a team player. and this work definition needs to be a function of the Scrum team and working closely with the whole team and having buy-in on that. So I think that we're still practicing Scrum a year later. We're doing it a little differently. I think it's going very well in that we delivered that MyUW beta to good response and good success, and we expect to make the beta that's been developed using the Scrum process the default MyUW experience on August 11th. And that's how we listen hard and change fast in the MyUW team. Next up.
Next up is Adam Marshall, and do we have William in the crowd yet? William Karavites. Still no William. All right. We will move down to Wilma Hodges.
Thanks, everyone. You can ask questions at the end, I guess, if you have any, because I don't want to be interrupted, because I probably run out of time. So I'm going to talk about reading list improvements. So since Indiana pulled out of, moved away from Sakai, shall I say, I think Oxford has taken over the leadership of the citations tool, reading list tool. And luckily, we've got some money from the university to do some development. So we've got 13 weeks worth of developer time, and that doesn't include kind of design time and things like that. It's all driven by the social sciences librarians. We have lots of different libraries at Oxford. I don't know whether it's the same for everybody. And we call citations reading lists. So whenever I talk about reading lists, I'm talking about the citations or the citations helper. And the social sciences library were quite impressed by this tool called Talus Aspire, but it costs a fortune. So what they wanted us to do was to do a kind of cut-price version of this Talus Aspire. So the sort of things we're going to do is in a number of areas. One of the areas is authoring. So they wanted to be able to have collapsible sections in a reading list. So at the moment you get one page, really, of references. They wanted to be able to break the page up into sections and then have a kind of, what they're called, accordion view. So you can open a section up and you'll see. The sections would be, say, weeks of a term or something like that. They wanted to be able to put text within the section, so you can have a bit of an introduction with maybe a picture or something, followed by links to reading list items which could be reordered. They wanted to be able to rank items as being either essential reading or optional, so give them some sort of priority. Copy reading lists between sites, which you can't do, which we've just about finished the coding for, so that should go in Sakai 11. But also copy items between reading lists as well. They want to be able to check broken links, and I can't remember what the last point is, listing metadata. I must have known when I wrote it. We're also going to rejig our integration with the library system. We use Ex Libris Primo. I don't know whether anybody else does. But at the moment, we were getting stuff back from there using OpenURL. So we would, at the moment, we make a call to Ex Libris Primo, do a search, and then there's a button. A bit like we used to have from Google Scholar. Import this link into Sakai. So we're currently doing that using OpenURL, but apparently we can get a lot more functionality if we use Primo ID. So we can get a Primo ID back, and then you can get things back into Sakai, which tells you about alternative versions of books, alternative editions, all that sort of thing. We're going to be displaying availability information. We currently do that, but we'll be able to do it better using this Primo ID. And also, students are going to be able to set their own favourite libraries. So, because we've got hundreds of libraries at Oxford, and they're only interested in the libraries near where they live or in their college. So, be able to set what your favourite library is. We want to be able to export the reading lists as a PDF and possibly Excel. Show the availability in the favourite libraries, as I said. Going to have little thumbnails of books so that people can see what they look like. We want the shelf mark displayed. I mentioned the alternative editions. And hopefully we'll have purchase this book links to Amazon and Blackwell's. And also, we may well have at the top of the screen a link for to go to, a bit like you can have all your sites listed in the site drawer. We want to have another drawer with all your reading lists in there. So it's like outside of a site, if you see what I mean. Going to be some stuff for the back office, so that's for librarians to be able to see an overview of all the reading lists and see how many copies of a book is required. So they might have to go and buy some, that sort of thing. I will be quite brief because I wanted to show you another slide. So I kind of covered all that before. Let me just show you what we hope it will look like. If I can, that's not it, is it? That's Sakai 11. There you go. So this was a mock-up done by the libraries. Now it's not. You can't see that very well, can you? It's not going to look exactly like that. That's very blurred, isn't it? But anyway, let me wave the mouse around a bit. So these are the collapsible sections. So this one's opened at week 3. These things here are the thumbnails. This is the availability. We've got sort of quick links there. Those are the links that at the moment appear underneath the reading list, so we're moving them off to the side. And, well, you can't really see, but there's lots of information in here, like shelf marks, all that sort of thing. So I can ask for a couple of questions. I think I've got about 30 seconds left, so they'll have to be quick. Does anybody have any? No? Okay, well, thanks very much then. Thanks.
Do we have William Caravite in the audience yet? No William. Okay. Moving on to Edmore Moyo. And now we have Wilma up next.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Neil, Caden, and I were going to talk to you just for a couple minutes about something we're calling FARM, although Neil tells me that the acronym's not getting much traction, so that might be something we would discuss, maybe coming up with a new one. But we were talking about ideas to crowdsource funding, basically. So the idea of the FARM is funding and resource management. Basically, it would be a place where people could collaborate together on project ideas. So kind of like a Kickstarter-ish concept where you could float ideas, and then institutions that maybe don't want to fund the whole thing but are interested in funding some portion of that could make those connections and try to get projects off the ground a little bit. And Neil, I don't know if you want to add to that before I go to the next.
We're going to keep going.
There's one more. Okay,
go ahead. You finish up. It'll be easy.
And then to kind of extend the analogy a little bit, we were thinking it would also be kind of like a farmer's market where current projects could have information, contacts, where you could have one-stop shopping, so to speak, where you could go and see some of the different community projects that are currently underway. Because some of us who are heavily involved with community projects don't necessarily think about how to get involved because you already are involved. But for somebody who's coming in new to the community, you might not know who the contact person is. You might want to get involved with something to do with Gradebook or other projects that are ongoing, but you don't really know, who to contact or how to get involved. So it would be a central hub for information so that people could disseminate that sort of project updates and things like that in a central place. And then I'll just go to the last slide, which is kind of a promo slide for a session that we're doing on Wednesday. And I'll let Neil talk about that a little more.
Yeah, and so I'll elaborate a little bit on what Wilma said, since we do have 3 minutes, which is great. So the reaction I got when I've talked to some people here at Open Apereo with the acronym FARM, I kind of get like this. See my eyebrows? That's what I get. So the feedback I was getting is FARM doesn't connect with people. The other. So we started brainstorming different names. This could be like maybe something like OpenStarter.org. Although we did a quick search on domain search, and somebody wants to sell that for $5,000. So we're probably not going to start there. But the point is, we might want to explore that. The other feedback that I've gotten is that people are saying, well, why make it a Sakai-specific thing? Why not make it an Apereo-level kind of idea of finding ways to improve these different Apereo tools and raise money for them? So that's something I think that would be very exciting to explore as well. And we had that. This is one of the networking lunch topics. And at the networking lunch discussion, we talked about the idea of maybe starting something very, very simple and very small, maybe even something as simple as just voting, and so people could easily post their ideas, and we could start there, right? Getting ideas out there, getting the community bill, see what the ideas are, whether it's Sakai, Zerte, any of the, the Apereo projects, and then having a chance to to vote, and maybe we can come up with a mentoring or some other solution for where do we go, what's the next step. But the idea, again, as Wilma said, is crowdsourcing, making it more transparent for the whole community and not just the insiders to be able to participate. Now I'm going to put in the plug for the session on Wednesday. So this is Sakai specific, but we're going to kind of be talking about, there's some existing projects that have launched that are very similar to this whole crowdsourcing model. The Gradebook Enhancement Project in Sakai, the Samigo Test Enhancement Project called STEP, the Lessons Enhancement Project. They all have this kind of crowdsourcing type of model that we've used. So we're going to kind of cover that, what those governance structures look like, how those got off the ground, and Wednesday at Maryland F at 11:45. So we'd love for you to come if you want to get a really nice overview of how existing projects have done this kind of work. And then it might stimulate some additional discussion about how we can make this something that we can replicate across Sakai and across Apereo and get a lot more people involved in helping to resource these great ideas. So I think that's all I've got. Do you have anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wilma and guest star Neil. We have David Bauer. That's a big step. David Bauer, come down.
Oopsie, I don't see my slides.
Next up is...
Hold on. I don't see my slides there.
Sorry?
I don't see my slides there.
What's that?
Nope. No. Still not showing. Oh.
This is what you want to show?
I want to show this. Okay, cool.
Sorry.
Yeah, just move that there. Then maximize that. No, be that, maximize that. And then control shift. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Edmore Moya.
Cool. Okay, my name's Edmore Moya, as you can see. I'm pretty much going to present on lecture capture and enhancing the teaching and learning experience. I'm an open source committer, and I also happen to work for SILT at the University of Cape Town. Okay. So what is Opencast? Opencast is pretty much a lecture capture as well as a video management system. So it's used within a lot of universities across the world, predominantly in Europe. There's some universities in Africa that use it, not that many, just probably University of Cape Town and Northwest University. And there's a lot of universities as well in America that actually use it as well. It's also a very vibrant community. As you can see, that's the last conference we were at. That's the Manchester conference that was in March, and that's pretty much most of the developers and the other doctors that actually use Matter or Opencast. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about the stats with regard to UCT. UCT is basically a mid-sized university, about 25,000 students. And we first launched Opencast in 2012, probably around February 2012. And currently we have we have 47 equipped venues, and we're currently growing. There's still more venues that we want to set up as well. We have probably about like 240 recordings per week in 2015. And up to 25,000 students use recordings weekly. Right. So you might ask, how exactly do students actually engage with the media? So we've actually managed to integrate Sakai and Opencast through the use of LTI. So that's basically what the students actually get to see. So that view basically allows students, well, in this case, this is actually the teacher's view, because you also have the self-management tools, which are pretty much they're able to manage the recordings, that's edit recordings. They're also able to schedule recordings, upload recordings. And when students log in, they only see the recordings tab, which allows them to actually view the recordings and download certain types of the media that they'd like to actually download. We've also recently added a feedback link that allows students to actually give us feedback as to what they feel about the the system, what enhancement they actually want as well. Right, so when they click the feedback link, it just links them to this form. So they pretty much, well, it links them to a separate form, and this is the output that we actually get. It actually links to a Google form, and you see that output there, which is pretty much issues that they might have, or sometimes they just speak about what they actually enjoy about the system. Right, so what we've actually noted, though, is in general the students actually like using the system. They actually appreciate the service, but these are some of the things that they've highlighted, like the ability to see what's written on blackboards. They want recordings to be available faster, better audio quality, better picture quality, and they also wanted like side-by-side downloads, because currently initially they'll get just the presenter file or a presentation file and not like a side-by-side sort of a download. So it's important also to be able to get the feedback, but also be able to react to the feedback. So what we actually have done is we've managed to like pretty much avail them some of the stuff that they've asked for, some of the enhancements that they've asked for. There's certain things that we're still working on, which are basically things like camera steering options, streamlining the back end. We do that all the time so that at least the media is available faster to them. And we're currently working on a classroom renewal service, or project rather, to streamline the AV equipment, which will basically allow for, say, better audio quality and stuff like that for the media that we actually publish. Right, so these are some of the other things that we want to do as well. We are currently streaming HD media, and we would also want to improve the mobile experience. Currently, we use a Flash media player, and what we want to do is to provide an HTML5 option to allow them to actually view the recordings on their mobile devices as well. So we've actually managed as well to give them the side-by-side option that they wanted. We've noticed that the feedback that we got actually helped us out, because we actually use the side-by-side option to actually check our sync as well, which has actually been beneficial to us as well. So what do we know? We know that students actually enjoy the service. Some of them actually want every single lecture to be recorded, and there's a great potential for enhancing the teaching experience. And yeah, those are the links, and I'm done. Thank you. That was just on time.
Thank you, Edward. Next up is David Bauer and Andrew. You're up again. Doubling down with Andrew today.
All right, my name is David Bauer. I'm from the University of Dayton. I'm going to try to show you a live demo right now, so let's bear with me. Hopefully it works. This is a new feature we developed for Samigo. We call it Question Progress. So if you have an exam set up where there's one question per page and you allow students to go back and forth between questions, they'll be able to see this feature. So I'm a student right now. I'm going to begin this exam. You'll see the difference here is now there's this little tab over here that says Question Progress, and if you open that up, it'll actually lay out, kind of like the table of contents, the questions in the exam. So if a student goes through and starts marking answers, and I don't know the real answers, but you can see it's kind of showing you your progress throughout the exam. If you're maybe unsure, you can mark it for review. And then you can even skip around, and you can see that over here we have 2 that are answered. These ones are unanswered. The question mark is marked for review. So this allows kind of the student to jump between questions easily. They can mark something, go answer a different question, maybe it's on the top of the tip of their tongue, and then come back. See, live demo failing right now. But then they will be able to also, they can close this if they don't want to be distracted. If they're filling out a question, it'll remember that if they prefer it to be closed or open when they navigate. Yeah, I think I have like 4 minutes, so if anyone has questions or if they want to see anything in particular, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's, click and go to the number, so. Anything? All right. Yes.
When you go to the mark for review, the site portal, does it automatically, when you get a question, does it automatically save your question in progress to go to the next question?
Yeah, so if I'm in question 12 here, and I type something, and oop. Can we switch it back to the other? Thank you. So I'm in question 12, and I type something out, mark it for review, and then say, oh yeah, I have to finish question 3 and jump over there. 12 is marked for review. When you go back, it still has all of your answers. So it actually saves every time you navigate to a different question. And it's the same thing as if you were using the next and previous buttons. They save when you go to the next question. So it does the same exact thing. It just allows you to kind of jump right to a specific question without normally going into table of contents, and then you have this mess to deal with. So I don't even know. This is where it was. So yeah, the other thing was we kind of pulled in the question text. If you hover over, so if you're not quite sure what the question was, you can hover over it and it'll kind of give you an idea of what that was. Yeah, I think that's... So this is, we made it so it only appears if the student's able to go back and forth, because obviously if they can't go backwards, we don't want to let them navigate. And then also if it's one question per page, because if you have 5 questions on a page and you jump to 6, it doesn't really work as far as getting to the right point in the screen. But I don't know if we can turn it off. It's more just we knew it was wanted, so if you set up your quiz so that it makes sense, it'll be there. It can be. It can be shortly, but it is not currently. It's something we're hoping to share back and kind of get into Samago. All right, thank you.
We have Pandai Pansva. We have William Karavites. Anybody else interested in giving a lightning talk? You're up. All right, Andrew Petro.
Speaking of GitHub, I'm here to tell you to merge your own pull requests. So, Git is just pretty darn awesome. Who likes Git? Everybody likes Git? Git is awesome. It is. How about pull requests? Who likes pull requests? Yeah, pull requests, they're pretty awesome too. Teams are awesome. Who's got a team? Raise your hand if you've got a team. Pretty awesome. So I previously gave a lightning talk on why you should not merge your own pull request, because you shouldn't do that. And the why should you merge your own pull request? Well, because a pull request is an opportunity to communicate about a potential set of change and get review and feedback and make that better before it hits the code base. And really, getting someone else to look at it hard enough to take responsibility to merge it, that's a way to involve others in reviewing. So you should not merge your own pull requests. Because code review, it's a thing. It's important to have code review and have someone else look at your code and suggest ways to improve it. I might look at your code. It's like looking both ways before you cross the street. You have a plan to cross the street, and you look both ways. And of course, the point of looking both ways is that you might behave differently based on what you see. If a semi's coming, you don't step out into the street and get hit. That was the point of looking. A pull request is like looking both ways before you cross the street of putting these commits into the code base. The point was to look and to respond to what you see. And so you put your pull request up there, and you get others to look at it, and they give it a +1, and it looks good. And they provide some feedback. Maybe somebody says, consider the template method here. And then someone else comes along and then reject that advice and instead, favor composition over inheritance, as you should. And you get this great feedback on your pull request because you're looking both ways before you cross the street. And if you have this rule that someone else is going to merge your pull request, after a sufficient number of those +1s, we kind of had the rule of 2. It was kind of a Sith kind of a thing. You get someone put a +1 and then someone else thinks it ought to be merged, and they go ahead and merge it, and hey, I wasn't done with that. There was all this great feedback on my pull request about making the design better, and I meant to respond to that feedback and really improve this change set, and someone came along and hit that merge button, and now my life is more complicated not that much more complicated, gets pretty forgiving, but still a little more complicated in further improving that change set. Definitely not clean. What's wrong with this picture? Well, I think we need to go back to that kind of Agile manifesto and those values. And when I gave the lightning talk about how you should not merge your own pull request, I was just wrong. And if we go back to these values about valuing individuals and interactions over processes and tools, and valuing responding to change over following a plan, I mean, that's what a pull request is. It's a plan. Here's what we plan to do to this code base. And what we really need is the pull requester, the person proposing this change, to exercise some human judgment about whether and what to do with this feedback. And the tools and the processes are nice and all, but the point was to communicate and collaborate and make the change set better before it comes into the code base. And these rules and processes, this rule that do not merge your own pull request, get someone else to do that, that's an attempt to have this rule and process, and it's just not a substitute for the thing that we're actually trying to do, which is be thoughtful about our change set and only merge changes that are thoughtful and reviewed and well formed. And these rules and processes, they're just no substitute for engaging as human beings, which is harder and more work, but really what we should do. So I've seen the error of my ways. You should, in fact, merge your own pull request, but you have to be human about it and kind of do it with your brain turned on and being self-aware and intentional about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Next up, we have Matt Clare. And Fred, you want to come set up?
Oh, am I spanning desktops? That's great. Hi, I'm Matt Clare. I'm the current chair of the Sakai Accessibility Working Group, and I have a role coordinating the Apereo community of interest around accessibility. And I can do two things at once while I talk. So this is going well so far. So I want to talk to you today about Sakai's rally plan. So the rally plan is based on a bit of an acronym hashtag. We are taking the hashtag short form for accessibility, which is just shortening down accessibility into A11Y, which often gets turned into ALI. And we're making the rally plan to review accessibility. But don't think too much about the acronym because it starts to fall apart with too much scrutiny. But here's the plan, and I know I'm approaching this plan from a lot of consultation from a small community that we'd love to hear more from the broader community. And everyone we've talked to so far agrees about the importance of accessibility for our learners, for our teachers, but resources aren't easy to come by. And so we want to take this foundation that everyone knows this is important, but we want to figure out how to get these resources. So we have this rally plan that is kind of three-phased. Starts by reviewing what we have in Sakai today. That's picking up audits that were commissioned by Brock University, Longsight, and any other information we can get from either a review done by institution or authentic experience from a teacher or learner. Get that, and our working group can turn that into JIRAs, can make that into the means for people to contribute resources for remediation or testing or QA, or actual funds to commission some work. Fix and enhance Sakai to make sure that it is at a high standard, and then that could be a part of this plan that goes back and forth between phase 1 and 2 across the whole tools. And then in phase 3, we want to get a VPAT for Sakai. So VPAT is a voluntary product accessibility test, and it's a little dated, template, pardon me. It's a little dated, a little American-centric, which is why I screwed up the acronym, but it's one of the great things about it is it's something that we can do as a community on our own, and in that process, assess our accessibility for Sakai. The plan then is to get a review or certification done by a group like the National Foundation for the Blind or a similarly respected group to actually accredit Sakai's accessibility against WCAG2. And again, having that VPAT, something great to have, and something to let us know that we're prepared to commission this work. But we do need the funds, especially to commission that work. I don't want to lose sight that Sakai does have a good accessibility foundation. It's been important work done by developers around the world. It's been important work by Indiana University used to do a lot of the pre-release testing on accessibility, but their role is diminished over time, which is fine. And we're moving into a situation where there doesn't seem to be a lot of accessibility testing in the community. Although if it's there to be found, I'd love to find it. So we're now trying to focus on commissioning that work from organization, and with that, build upon a certification to make us more competitive against other LMSs in the marketplace, and to give assurances to people who are adopting Sakai or considering it. There's a quick picture of what Sakai Trunk looks like now when you do a little small accessibility audit. There's a couple things in red. I just wanted to add a picture. And if you're unaware, WCAG2 is a nice international standard by the W3C that has been adopted by a number of jurisdictions, including Ontario, Canada, California, Illinois, UK, Australia, as a standard for accessibility. So there's a rally plan in Confluence, and if you Google rally plan, probably come up very quickly. I'm giving a presentation on behalf of the Accessibility Working Group for Sakai at 9:45 on Wednesday, and we'd love to have you join our web conference to talk about this plan, set some priorities. We're looking for something in mid-June. There is a link there. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Next up is Fred Dixon. And I think that will conclude our lightning talks for today. Tomorrow we're going to have the same format, same place, same time, actually. So I think there's some spots available. If you have time tomorrow and want to give a lightning talk, please show up then.
Okay, thanks. So I think I'm the last one. I'm the closer for the sessions. So I have an update I want to give you on the Big Blue Button project, which is an open source web conferencing system for online learning. We believe every student with a web browser should have access to a high quality online learning experience, and that's what we intend to do with Big Blue Button. And I have a demo of the HTML5 client that we've been working on. I'll show you at the end of this talk live. So I saw a couple slides earlier about, hey, guys together. So every 6 months we get together with some of the core developers. This was us in Brazil in November, and this was recently in Ottawa. So you may also know that we've very deep integration with the Sakai community. I always like to give credit to Nuno Fernandez and Adrian Fish, who wrote the first integration with Big Blue Button over 5 years ago, and Jesus Federico has been supporting it for the last 4 years. So I want to give you an update of what we're working on in the coming releases for Big Blue Button. And I say an update, this could be adapted based on customer community demands. But the things that we really care about in the near term, polling module, so more interactivity with online students, closed captioning, very important with students with disabilities. And we have done some improvements, a little bit of bling. We've done some improvements to the video doc so it looks more, well, maybe more modern. So here's 4 people together. Here's what it would look like at the bottom if you're doing a collaborative session. And here's what it would look like if you give a little more preference to the folks in the video doc. The polling module, we really designed it to be as easy to use as possible. So a teacher could start a poll. They could basically create one or choose from some preset ones if their slide had like 3 items and they just wanted to say to people, what do you think, A, B, or C? If they choose it, what will happen is they'll come up to a preview. They'll see what the students would see. They could edit it. It's just a text field, so you could type another entry line in for another response. Go back, preview it, and then when you want to go to do the poll, just say submit. This is what happens on every student's screen. They'll see the poll right away. They could choose it, A, B, or C, or if you enabled multiple choice. And then what the instructor would see is the results that would come back live in real time. So if there are 20 students, you'd see them all coming back, 15 out of 20, 16 out of 20. And then at that point, the instructor could just close it and talk about the results, or they could share it. And then we thought, how can we share this? Well, if we made a presentation of this, we could just upload it to Big Blue Button. So we use LibreOffice on the back end, so we're just going to give it to LibreOffice, turn it into a PDF, upload it to Big Blue Button, and then it becomes part of your presentation with the recording. You can annotate it and everything. Okay, HTML5 client. So Big Blue Button, we've been working on this for quite a while, and this is what it looks like right now. We've got a latest build right here, and it's meant to be able to provide students. Now, we're not going to do everything in Big Blue Button. We don't have to do all the moderator capabilities, but provide students the ability to participate in a session. Let's say they're traveling on the subway or the transit system. There's a techie slide. I can go over this later if you want. And then the rollout, what we're doing is two-way audio and chat. We want to view the desktop sharing, view the presentation, and advance the slides. And we're going to use WebRTC for it. So Chrome and Firefox, awesome. If you've got an Android device, awesome. We're also working on an HTML5 client as well, but I mean, WebRTC rocks. It's really good. And then phase 2, this is after the first release, we'll do two-way video, more presenter capabilities, and then we'll actually turn it into pretty much the full Big Blue Button client, all HTML5. So I'm going to switch over to, this is a live Big Blue Button session. So I figured the thing you'll probably see the most is just this transition. So this is an Android client that can do the audio, but if I translate the slides, hopefully that changes on you. And that's what we've been working on. Thanks.
Thank you, Fred. And that concludes the lightning talks for today. We had a couple of folks that didn't show up, but if you have your lightning talk prepared, same time, same place, same format tomorrow. All right? Thanks, everybody.